Hey there, fantasy folks. It's me, your champion. That's right. This guy won it all. Came in as the number 5 seed and just cleaned house. Me and my boy Dunk right here just really played our best ball there at the end. Took home the title. That's right. This was my surprise for the league. We got a championship belt this year. And it's really a good thing that I won because our intention was to engrave all the past champions and future champions on the belt. And clearly we haven't done that yet. So it's a good thing that I got a year to get that done. But nonetheless, man, good to be a champion. So let's talk about the year in review. First off, let's talk about the final standings. So me and my Duncan Disorderlies, he's a little camera shy. There he is. That's my buddy. It's snowing, by the way. We defeated Dangerous Knights 144.58 to 136.1. After the Saturday night game with CeeDee Lamb, when he put up like 40 points, whatever, it was looking really good for me. But I never got cocky because I knew that Tim had an awesome team, and I'm not going to lie, I was sweating that Chiefs game because Isaiah Pacheco, like literally it felt like every play, they're like throwing the ball to Pacheco, and then he runs like this because he's a wild man. And man, he closed that gap, and I was really glad when that game ended. So I took number 1. Tim Spain has to settle for the number 2 spot. Dangerous Knights in the 3 and 4 battle defeats our defending champion, Slummy the Buckless Troll, 147.18 to 106.18. So beat him by 41 points, kind of taking revenge for that week 5 loss that he took from Slummy. Memphis Mains comes in 5th, defeating Tiggle Bitties 123.24 to 100.7. Georgia Peaches in the Battle of the States defeats Texas Chainsaw 110.52 to 97.48. Not sure my sister set her lineup, though. She was off in Europe gallivanting around, visiting in-laws and things. But yeah, Georgia Peaches takes the 7 spot. Texas Chainsaw settles for 8. Coming in at number 9, Peyton's 5-head puts up a huge number. Would have beaten me had he made it to the championship. But puts up 146.46 to beat Trash Pandas for the number 9 spot, who only got 93.7. And in the battle to not be last, my lovely wife, Crawdad, takes out Too Good For You, 105.5 to 63.4. Man, couple things that I want to talk about, though, as I wrap up the year. I did some digging into our draft, and I went back and looked at the draft and what we paid for players and all that jazz, right? The highest cost for a player, Crawdad, who came in 11th, spent $71 on Justin Jefferson. Probably would have been worth it had he not gotten hurt. But again, the problem in an auction league is that it's all about budgeting, right? And when you spend that much on one player, you really got to budget down the line. And this is what I noticed. Of our 4 playoff teams, our final 4 teams, myself, Dangerous Knights, Jive Turkeys, and Slummy the Buckless Troll. Slummy was the only one of those 4 that spent over $60 on any player. Interesting, right? He spent $64 on Travis Kelce, who, according to Fantasy Pros, I had heard that he was still the number 1 tight end, but according to Fantasy Pros, he comes in at number 3, no longer the king of the tight ends. And ironically, number 1 is Sam Laporta, who Slummy picked up off the waiver wire, I think for free, in week 1 because Travis Kelce couldn't play that week. So Kelce only averaged 8.4 points per game this week. Laporta averaged 9. So just kind of an interesting fact, right? Meanwhile, Jive Turkeys, Duncan Disorderlies, and Tim Spain, the Dangerous Knights, we all waited. And in fact, Dangerous Knights waited the longest. I think his first couple of players, he spent like in the upper 30s, like 30s. I think he got Chris Olave. He got 2 guys back to back. I can't remember who they were, but it was like Chris Olave, and it might have been Jahmyr Gibbs. But he also, he waited. I didn't start buying guys until, that sounds terrible. I didn't start drafting guys until, the low 50s. My first player was CeeDee Lamb at $50. CeeDee Lamb comes in as the number 1 overall wide receiver, slipping past Tyreek because Tyreek missed some games there at the end. Plus that 40 burger that he dropped, on, last week, pushed him over. CeeDee Lamb had he had 245.7 points for the year. And Tyreek comes in at 243.2. Number 3, this is interesting. Number 3 wide receiver, Mike Evans. So I spent $50 on CeeDee Lamb, who came in number 1. Drummond spent $66 on Tyreek Hill. Number 3, Mike Evans, was purchased for $7. Yeah, think about that, right? Amon-Ra, St. Brown. I said it right. Wow. The season's over. I finally got his name right. He comes in at number 4, and he was drafted for, looks like, $53 or $55. I can't read my writing. And then A.J. Brown comes in at 5 at $46. And DJ Moore, who was drafted by number 2 Tim Spain's Dangerous Knights, was drafted for $14. So, and then, of course, Puka Nacua comes in at 7. It's kind of interesting going down and looking at how people actually landed. In fact, really kind of remarkable. But very interesting how the guys that waited and budgeted their money a little better this year were the ones that were in at the end of the season. Something to think about for next year. I don't know about y'all. I mean, I won this beautiful trophy, this beautiful belt, and then the very next morning I was up, reading the fantasy news. I was already making my plans for next year because it looks so good on my wall. I'm just thinking I need to keep it forever and ever and ever. I just love it so much. No, but seriously, it's awesome. I love it. I love being a winner. It's really great. It's nice of y'all to have let me defeat you in the way that you did. I was an underdog coming into the playoffs. I was an 8-6 record, but I ran the tables. Me and my boy Dunk. That's right. So, something to think about. Other things I noticed, quarterbacks, man. Let's talk quarterbacks. Josh Allen comes in at number 1 with 385 total points. He was drafted for $30. Jalen Hurts, my quarterback, much better fantasy quarterback than he is a real football quarterback this year. I got him for $27. Number 3 was Lamar Jackson for $20. But get this, number 4, Dak Prescott, who Tiggle Bitties had, who came in 5th or 6th, I think. He drafted him for $2. This is the first year I've ever spent big on a quarterback, and I'm glad I did. Because some of my other players let me down at times, and Jalen Hurts was pretty consistent. But it does speak to the fact that that quarterback, man, it can help you, but it can also kill you. For example, Trash Panda spent $45 on Pat Mahomes, who came in 7th overall. So something to think about. Meanwhile, the 6th overall quarterback was picked up off the waiver wires by Tim Spain, Brock Purdy, he got him for $3 off the waiver wire. So he beats out Pat Mahomes for the year. Some other interesting ones. Listen to this. Quarterbacks 15, 16, 17, and 18. 15 is Stafford, who's on my bench. I picked him up off the waiver wire. 16 was Justin Herbert, $17 in the draft. Justin Fields was $21 in the draft. He was the 17th overall quarterback. And number 18 was Derek Carr, who was drafted for $1. So Herbert and Fields, both, what were projected to be high-end quarterbacks, both of them, right there in between a guy that I picked up off the waiver wire and a guy that was picked up for $1. So now, granted, they had some injuries, and of course that always makes a difference. But it's just kind of something interesting. Baker Mayfield ends the season at number 9. Who saw that one coming? Running backs, CMC, the king of kings again. My sister complained all year about how she spent too much money on CMC. She spent $60 on him, which honestly I don't think was maybe too much for him. He averaged 20 points a game. He put up 324 points for the season. That's better than the number 5 quarterback. Let's see. But think about this, though. So $60 for CMC. Raheem Mostert comes in at number 2, was drafted for $4. And I did warn Slummy when he got him. I said, he's awesome, when he plays, but he will get hurt. And then he made it through the entire season and got hurt in the playoffs. Get this one, though. Kyron Williams comes in at number 3, was drafted for $1, right? Then Travis Etienne comes in at 4. Was drafted for $31. And then number 5, I got Derrick Henry for $43. Number 6 is interesting. Rashad White, who was drafted, I think, by Peyton's 5. Peyton's 5 had a really good draft. Just barely missed the playoffs. Would have beaten me in the championship if he'd played me. But he got some great deals. I think he got Rashad White really cheap. He got Nico Collins. He had... James Conner, who I wouldn't have. Did I show you the belt yet? See, there's Lucy. It says Fantasy Genius here at the bottom. Yeah, Fantasy Football Genius. But I wouldn't have this belt if it weren't for, Peyton's 5 head. If ET hadn't dropped James Conner, I probably wouldn't have it because I probably would have had to play, Derrick Henry, something like that. Man, some big-time losers in the running back category. Tony Pollard, $51, finishes as the 21st running back. Let's see. Najee Harris, $40, finishes his 24th. And then Josh Jacobs was $38, finishes his 25th. But the big loser on running backs, Austin Eckler, $64, lands in the 29th spot. So, again, man, it's something to think about come draft season. Budget your money. Last but not least, I'm going to touch on the defenses. Every year in the past, we've had guys spending up for defenses. I went back. This year, actually, we did much better. The most anybody spent on a defense was $2. And the reason you don't spend a lot on defense is because the defenses they tell you that are going to be good at the beginning of the year never pan out. The number 1 defense in fantasy this year was the Ravens. They went undrafted. I used them for a while, but they went undrafted. The Cowboys were number 2. Slummy picked them up for $2. They won some games for him, but kind of fell off there at the end. Then the Browns, the Bills, and the Dolphins. They were all drafted, but for $2 or less. And then the Raiders come in at number 6. That one surprised me. They've been playing really good lately, but I didn't realize that they were that high. They were undrafted. And then the 49ers were drafted for $1. The Jets for $1. I drafted the Saints for $1. But yeah, we did much better on defenses. Better on kickers, too. I still don't think you should ever spend more than $1 on a kicker. But nonetheless, you know, those are just some things, you know, some things that a 3-time champion just happened to notice about the league and looking back at things, and just thought I'd share with you. All in all, though, this was probably our most competitive year yet. I'm really proud of all y'all, with the exception of Too Good For You. Not that I'm not proud of you, Jackson. You just had some terrible luck, man. Between Eckler getting hurt, Cup, there was just, you had, like, on paper what looked like a great lineup, but as the saying goes, your team looked good on paper. Unfortunately, it's actually played on the field. So, but other than you know, Too Good For You struggles, we were all right in it at the end of the season. You know, I got in at 8-6, and there were like 3 or 4 of y'all that were 7-7, a couple that were, you know, 6-8. So it was a great season. So, anyways, I want to thank y'all for playing. Thank you for giving me your money. Next year, you're going to have to pry this thing out of my cold, dead hands. Let me see your war face. Ah!